Hey everybody, watch this review here with part 1 of my 3-part look at the Spider-Man vs. Thing starter set for the Marvel Legends Showdown line. Part 1 will look at Thing, part 2, Spider-Man, and part 3 will discuss the actual game itself, including the rules. And here we have Thing in all of his packaged glory. Probably not the best pose for him in package, just because it reveals the arm joints there, but whatever. And here's just a quick look at the other figures available. Not pictured are the Colossus Magneto starter pack and the Mr. Fantastic versus Mole Man starter pack. I think there was one other starter pack too, but I can't remember. As you can see, it was a pretty decent lineup. Of course, I think this is all just Wave 1, so the other waves obviously aren't displayed. Like all Marvel Legends Showdown's figures, Thing comes with a few accessories. A launcher with a fist-shaped projectile, I guess to represent his punch. A base for his stand, which has a picture of his face here. Although I would have preferred a generic Fantastic Four symbol, I guess it's important that you have some way of knowing which base belongs to which character, because these are also game pieces. And the stand itself, which I guess is good for leaping poses. Now I picked up this 2-pack mostly for Thing, who I feel has a fantastic sculpt, in addition to having one of the nicest face sculpts I've seen for this character. Thing has massive detailing, which looks absolutely incredible. Just from the little horizontal lines running across the fist here to the massive number of crags all across his body to represent his skin texture. But you know, with a character like Thing, you can always expect this sort of detail just because he is a character with a lot more texturing and so forth. Paint-wise, you'll notice that his, you know what, I'm going to call it a Speedo. His Speedo has a good amount of paint texturing in terms of, it looks like the blues change going from the bottom to the top, and there's shadow wherever you see the lines. But, the general body has a, I guess, kind of interesting paint job. I'm not going to call it like a really great paint job, but it certainly looks good from a distance. But when you get up close, you'll notice that his legs and upper body and so forth are made from a dark color plastic. But the arms are made from a completely different color plastic, a lighter orange. So what they did was they tossed a sort of reflective layer of paint across the whole thing, which is a reflective orange. But in parts, the paint job didn't go all the way across, so you can see the original color of the plastic over here, and then over here where they missed a spot, as well as the joints themselves where they wouldn't have painted. I mean, it's a minor qualm, because it makes it look a little bit cheap, but other than that, I mean, it looks great from a distance. Just as soon as you get up close, you'll notice all these little minor foibles or whatever. But the paint itself is pretty cool. It reminds me of like those paints that you apply to like trains and so forth. Because it has more of a metallic sheen to it, and it's like it got a whole mix of colors as opposed to being just like one plain color, like they did for a lot of the other figures in the normal lines. And you'll also notice there's a good amount of shadowing just all over, like over near his toes here and so forth, and except for over in like these parts here, I think it's just the natural plastic showing through, and they just painted around it to make that part look darker. I mean, very, very nice. I mean, it just looks incredible. As to articulation, I only have a few real complaints, in part because he's just so damn muscular. This won't go, his elbows won't push the arms all the way through here, and that means the open hand and closed hand will never meet, so we can never do a "it's clobbering time" pose, which, you know, is a really iconic pose for the character, which would have helped if they had floating shoulders, which also would have disguised the fact that they have like little open areas here if you turn the ball joint certain ways. Kind of tacky. The other big thing is, you know, there's no forearm joint here, and the wrist, of course, can't rotate, so you lose out on a fair amount of articulation, which I think is a pretty revolting development. Other than that, in terms of articulation, he's like really top notch. You have a finger joint on his left hand, as well as a wrist joint that will move back and forth. Right one is balled into a fist. I mean, I usually prefer having both open or both closed for symmetry, but I mean, it's nice having a decent looking fist, because this one doesn't really make a great one. This, of course, only has wrist movement. Single jointed elbow. We have a bicep joint. The arm joint has a pretty good range of articulation. But I mean, between the two, you have to move them a little bit. The head is awesome, as mentioned. You can do a full 360 rotation if you wanted to. But you can also look down a little bit, and then all the way up. Check that out. That's an impressive looking up there. So if something big's going to fall on him, he can look up and then catch it or something. Although he looks to have a torso joint here, it's really just more of an ab/diaphragm joint, because it can only really go forward and back due to the sculpt. Won't go side to side at all. The waist, of course, will go side to side. Full 360. Good leg here. I mean, you won't get it forward a whole bunch just because his legs are so huge, but the ball joint does everything it's expected of it, and then the upper thigh will twist. Double jointed knee. A ball joint for the ankle/foot, so it'll go all sorts of directions. And then, of course, you have the single joint here at the toes. In terms of scale, Thing is an absolute tank. He stands at a very solid 4.5 inches tall. I mean, he's basically on par with the Marvel Universe Secret Wars Hulk from that 2-pack. Of course, that Hulk is pretty short for a Hulk, but you know. Both figures, of course, completely dwarf your smaller characters, like this X-Men Origins Wolverine. However, you know, if you stand Thing right next to Hulk, Hulk just looks a whole lot bigger because he has a much broader sculpt, which I believe was basically the same sculpt they used for the Marvel Universe Thing. Also, because Thing is a heavier character, his little stand here is not going to support him very well, so you've got to probably rubber band that, and then I guess even the base you'd probably have to add some weight to it. But I mean, it's kind of silly that you have a stand that you just completely can't use just due to the size and weight of this guy. On the whole, I'm very happy I picked this thing up. I feel that he's a great addition to any 3 3/4 or 4-inch collection. And I'd say that he is definitely worth checking out. So, until next time, folks.